August 1947 brought political independence to India, but for millions, that freedom existed only on paper. They remained physically and economically bound to local elites. The country inherited deep-rooted systems of servitude, from zamindari land exploitation to the Devadasi system, where individuals were tied to religious institutions without autonomy. Entire families were trapped in generational debt bondage, performing intense physical labor at brick kilns simply to pay off loans taken by their ancestors. The framers drafted these explicit protections to ensure that bodily and economic liberty remained a prerequisite for participation in the new republic. Most fundamental rights act primarily as a shield against the state. They're designed to prevent the government from overstepping its bounds. This diagram shows the unique jurisdictional power of Articles 23 and 24. Unlike most constitutional rights, these provisions are enforceable against both the state and private individuals. The framers understood the reality of the ground level. A local landlord or factory owner could crush individual liberty as effectively as any government. Article 23 provides protection through three strict prohibitions. First, trafficking, covering slavery, servitude, and immoral activities. Second, Begar, which addresses extracting physical labor without any remuneration. Third, forced labor, occurring when a worker is trapped by economic force, like debt, even if paid the minimum wage. Article 23 is a permanent legal barrier against systems using economic leverage to compromise human dignity. Watch out for a specific exception. Article 23, Clause 2 allows the state to demand compulsory public service, like military conscription. However, the government cannot discriminate based on religion, race, caste, or class. Examiners will test you on the explicitly missing word, sex. Assuming all discrimination is banned will cost you marks. The Constitution's specific textual omissions dictate the law. Article 24 focuses exclusively on minors, establishing an absolute rule. No child below 14 can be employed in factories, mines, or hazardous employment. This absolute prohibition applies immediately to physically dangerous tasks like stone quarrying. This flowchart maps out recent Child Labor Act amendments. Hazardous industries remain a strict no, but non-hazardous family enterprises are permitted with a rigid condition. Children can only help after school hours, ensuring no interference with their right to education. Article 24 acts as a strict shield, protecting a child's right to health and education. It is not designed to criminalize standard household chores. The Supreme Court actively reinforces these textual boundaries. In the landmark 1984 Narija Chowdhury case, the court ruled that bonded labor demeans human dignity, effectively violating both Article 23 and the Article 21 right to life. Let's test this logic with an active recall scenario. Imagine the government forces only men of a specific caste to build a road for free. Look at this prompt. Which grounds are violated and which are technically allowed? Targeting a specific caste directly violates the exception clause in Article 23(2). However, because the word sex is omitted from that exact subclause, targeting only men is technically not prohibited here. General moral intuition will not get you through the UPSC exam. You have to apply cold legal logic. This comparison chart locks in the differences. For Article 23, use the mnemonic TBF, trafficking, Begar, and forced labor. For Article 24, remember the rhyme, no 14 door for hazardous chores. You can consolidate these rules into a revision sheet covering state and private actors. Since 1967, New Careers Academy in Chandigarh has helped students decode these exact legal nuances, producing generations of officers. Head to ncacademy.com to access our meticulous study notes and mentorship programs designed to help you navigate the legal logic required for the civil services.